My dad kicked me out of the house for telling him the truth about his girlfriend, and then he sent my sister to the hospital because I caused him legal problems. But now everyone has discovered what he was hiding. My mom was my world. I remember reading books, watching documentaries, and going on road trips with her. She would bake cookies for my sister and me every time we were sick. She and Dad used to take us hiking every other weekend. I still miss her. When I was 11 years old, she passed away in a car accident. It was the hardest year of my life, and it hasn't gotten any easier. 2 years after she died, my dad started dating a woman named Nicole, and 4 years later, they are getting married. Nicole is younger than my dad. After he started dating Nicole, I saw my dad come out of his shell again, but he turned into something else. Nicole brought adventure back into his life, but they often went on elaborate trips and went out at night frequently. During all of this, I felt neglected. My dad gradually stopped taking my sister and me on our weekly hikes. He started talking less and less on the phone, and he even forgot my mom's birthday once. Since she entered our lives, I started losing my dad. He just wasn't there anymore. Once, when my sister and I were home alone, she fell down the stairs and got a huge cut on her forehead. It was clear she needed stitches, so I called my dad immediately. Nicole answered the phone, and I asked her to put my dad on. She refused, saying he was busy, and before I could say another word, she hung up. With a lot of embarrassment, I had to ask the neighbor to take us to the ER, where my dad met us later. This woman once took my mom's picture off the mantelpiece to put up a picture of her and my dad from their trip to D.C. What was the last straw for me was when she made my dad forget my mom's birthday. Every year, my sister and I go with our dad to visit my mom's grave on her birthday. It was an annual tradition even before Nicole entered our lives. Nicole and my dad went on a trip to Florida, and they were supposed to return 3 days before my mom's birthday. But because this woman gets carsick, my dad decided to split the drive back into short stretches to make it easier for her. Because of that, he ended up missing our annual trip. He didn't even call us. Less than a week later, my dad had the nerve to tell us a surprise. Nicole is pregnant. I got angry and told my dad, "You have to get her pregnant when you can't even be here for us." Then I looked at Nicole and told her she is a piece of filth and to get out of our lives. My dad got angry and screamed at me to go to my room. Later, my grandpa came unexpectedly to pick me up. My dad didn't text me Jack. Even when I left, he didn't even look at me. It has been 2 days, and I am still at my grandparents' house. I feel embarrassed about what I said, but I don't feel overwhelming regret. Am I the bad one? Just for context, I am 17, my sister is 13, my dad is 44, and Nicole is 34. When I saw how deep the cut on my sister was, I called my dad immediately. He was staying at Nicole's house at the time. When I called, Nicole answered. She said hello. I said, "My sister is bleeding. Can you put me on with Dad?" She said, "Your dad is busy. I can't." And immediately after, she hung up. Then I went to find my neighbor. I have decided to contact my maternal grandpa tomorrow. I will tell you all how it goes. I hadn't mentioned this before, but I am currently living with my paternal grandparents. They live closer to us than my grandpa on my mom's side. I have also tried talking to my paternal grandparents, but it was a very ambiguous conversation. It's not that they didn't help sometimes, but it is clear they were justifying my dad's actions at every opportunity instead of listening to me. I don't want to live like this. I hate harboring a grudge, but I can't help it. I have asked my dad about therapy, but he doesn't believe in that kind of support. I also spoke to a school counselor. They can't guide me toward a resource without my dad's consent. The conversations usually end with them telling me to keep talking to my dad. I don't expect them to have a solution for every situation, but it would be nice if they at least listened to me completely. I also have to censor some details when I talk to them because they previously sent a police officer to my house. My dad got mad about that situation, and I don't want him to get mad at me. As for therapy, my dad doesn't believe in therapy or counseling, so my options are limited. When I spoke to the school counselor, I mentioned that when my dad and Nicole traveled abroad, he left my sister and me alone at home for 3 days and forgot to leave us money for food. That's why they sent a police officer to our house to check on us, and my dad got mad because I shared family information with strangers. Another time, he forgot to pick my sister up from swim practice for an hour or so. My dad got a call from the swim club and told me to walk 30 minutes to go get my sister. As for how I feel, my mind feels a little lighter and my heart not as heavy as before. It helped me process my emotions to some extent. I called my maternal grandpa when everyone was still asleep. It ended up being a 2-hour call. Basically, I mentioned everything I have said here and that I want to live with him if possible. He said that as much as he wants me to leave there, he can't do much without my dad's approval. I hinted at a legal approach, but he said he wouldn't be able to see us if it went that far. My grandpa also shared new information about my dad. According to him, when I was 14 and my sister was 10, My dad dropped us off at my grandpa's farm because he and Nicole were flying out. A day after they returned, my grandpa drove us back home. We were still asleep in my grandpa's car when this happened, but when my grandpa knocked on the door, my dad opened it, wasted drunk. From the little he could see, my grandpa saw that the house was a mess. He told my dad he would bring us back the next day once he was sober. We went back to my grandpa's house. Then, my grandpa received a call from my dad the next morning, threatening him with the police if he didn't bring us back immediately. My grandpa mentioned he would talk to my paternal grandparents to see if something could be done about our situation. It has been a while. I really want to thank you for your perspectives and advice. I just wanted to give an update. Regarding Thanksgiving dinner, when my dad and Nicole arrived, I asked if I could speak to both of them. My dad said he didn't want to talk and went to the living room. Nicole stayed at the front door, so I apologized for insulting her. She replied that she had to go and went to the living room. In general, she was still mad at me. Dinner was awkward because my grandma tried to get my dad and me to talk, but he didn't even bother. After dinner, I pulled him aside and apologized again. He ignored me and went straight to Nicole. I still wasn't sure if I was going to move back in with him or not, so I packed everything just in case. When he was getting ready to leave, I asked if I could come home. He said Nicole wasn't comfortable having me in the house, even though a few days had passed since the incident. I spent the whole night crying on the phone with my sister. Regarding therapy and the living situation, after my call with my maternal grandpa, he called my paternal grandparents a couple of days later to discuss my situation. I overheard the call between them. My maternal grandpa expressed that he was worried about me, especially my mental state, and asked my paternal grandparents if they would be willing to talk to my dad to put me in therapy. My grandparents said they would be willing to take me to their church's mental health support group or speak with their faith leader who specializes in grief counseling. My grandpa rejected the idea and mentioned the need for more professional help, but they weren't receptive. The three of them also had a heated conversation about my living arrangement. My grandpa said it was ridiculous for a grown man to kick out his daughter, and that it was shameful that my paternal grandparents weren't insisting on helping me return home. That was all I heard of the conversation. Now, my grandma started taking me to private weekly sessions with the religious leader. I am not entirely happy with the arrangement, but it has helped me start processing my grief in a healthier way. Also, I am still living with my grandparents. I have apologized over and over by text to my dad and through my grandparents, but he hasn't responded. My maternal grandpa has called my dad many times, but my dad blocked him. I am thinking of telling my school counselor next semester all the details about my dad and not omitting anything to protect him. I also wasn't invited to my dad and Nicole's Christmas dinner, which hurt, but I am starting to not want a relationship with my dad. I don't know if my feelings will change. In a twisted way, it was good he didn't let me come back home to him. The space has helped me focus on myself. I scheduled a meeting with the counselor for next week while my dad is in California. I'm not going to lie. I feel anxious because I haven't told anyone. I am trying to time it so he isn't here or can't be here when all this happens. I ran out of room, but my sister is still living with my dad. She visits me on weekends and I have walked with her from school to home, so I still have some contact. I feel overwhelmed by the number of messages, but I want to say I am not well versed in the laws related to my situation. Regarding my sisters and my college fund, my mom worked in a small boutique and set aside part of the money she earned there. My dad worked as a consultant, and I do know he also contributed money to the funds. I don't know if my sister and I received any money from benefits or any monetary inheritance from my mom after she passed. I am still processing a lot of information and getting it down in writing first. I even recently opened a bank account with my grandparents' help, so now I won't depend on him for simple monetary needs. I have thought about emancipation, but in less than a year I will turn 18, so I don't know if that path is worth my energy given everything else. Thanks also for leaving information in the comments. I will definitely check all of that out. Also, I know it is a small percentage of people, but please do not send me messages telling me to do violent things to my dad or Nicole or wishing harm on their baby. I don't need that, nor would I wish it on anyone. I wasn't sure if I could still add long updates to my old post, but I wanted to give one. Right now, everything is a mess, so I will do my best to be coherent. Looking back, this was stupid on my part, but after scheduling an appointment with my counselor, I mentioned it while talking on the phone with my sister. On the call, I never explicitly said I intended to report him, but she started getting very nervous and telling me it wasn't a good idea. She ended up crying on the call saying I would be hurting our dad if I reported him. To calm her down, I told her I wouldn't go to the appointment. Even so, I still planned to go to the meeting with the counselor. I scheduled the meeting for the second week of January, while my dad was in California. The night before the meeting, I received a call from my dad. He said that if I ever wanted to have a place to live again, not to spread lies about him to the counselor. I told him I would never do that, and the call ended there. It was the first time I had spoken to him in days, and I had never given him any indication that I planned to report him. I realized my sister must have said something, so I called her to talk. I asked her why she would tell him something like that, and she told me he called to ask what I was doing. It slipped out, and she told him I planned to meet with the counselor. I ended up going to the meeting with the counselor anyway and told him everything that was going on. I asked him please not to notify my dad about the meeting, and he agreed. In the end, the counselor gave me 2 or 3 mental health support brochures and said he would follow up with me. He also dodged my questions about what would happen now. A day later, just as I got home from school, my paternal grandpa called me and said he wanted to talk. He told me the school called my dad to set up a meeting with the counselor. He started yelling and getting angry with me, saying that if I do this crap, they will take my sister and the baby away. He also said I wasn't raised to lie and kept berating me. I never thought my grandpa was capable of getting like that, but it scared me how angry he got. Also, I got grounded, so I can't drive or visit friends for a couple of weeks. I don't know exactly what happened in the meeting between the counselor and my dad. From the call between my grandpa and my dad, I learned that there was a police officer present at the meeting and that they will do a wellness check. Also, my dad denied everything I told the counselor and attributed it to me being resentful because I lost my mom. I wasn't okay mentally, and I am still not. I call my friend and ask her to stay on the phone with me most of the time, or I just rot in my room. Also, as punishment, my grandma stopped taking me to the faith leader, so that is my current situation. I appreciate all the messages of support and advice, but please don't send me violent private messages or tell me to do terrible things. Again, I would never wish harm on anyone. Just going to do a mini update. During the meeting with the counselor and the police officer, my dad learned he should expect a wellness check. In fact, he has been coming home early every day last week, which is unlike him. My sister texted me last Tuesday that our dad came home early from work and told her to behave. She was panicked and upset, so I called her to help her calm down. I explained that a police officer might come for a wellness check and to answer the officer's questions honestly. Again, I don't know specifically what happened during the check, but my sister told me the officer came to ask my dad some questions and asked her if she was okay. I asked her what she told the officer and she said she was okay. Nothing has come of that. As soon as my sister texted me that Tuesday, I tried to sneak out to go to my dad's house before the officer came, but my grandpa caught me. He took me back inside and we had a shouting match, to put it mildly. I yelled at him that he doesn't care about my sister or me. He yelled at me that he was tired of my spoiled butt and that I should be grateful I still had food and a bed after the nonsense I caused recently at school. I left in the middle of his rant to calm down in my room. My grandma came up shortly after to check on me. She said my dad and grandpa were going through a lot to resolve this mess, and to please not make it worse for her sake and mine. I asked her what she meant by for her sake and mine. She said I need to grow up and behave like an adult and not cause her stress. Then she said, "You have to stop stressing Nicole out. You know, the poor woman has been calling me crying because of what you did. She is scared for the baby." After that, I didn't have the energy to get into another screaming fight, so I told my grandma I needed space and she left. The counselor didn't follow up with me during school last week. I also think it's for the best right now. My sister had a panic attack last week. They almost called the paramedics because she couldn't stop hyperventilating. I know she is suffering and doesn't need anything else overloading her mentally. I also don't want to break her trust again after going to the counselor. She is the type of person who keeps things to herself if there isn't a strong relationship. If she is going through something, she won't tell you unless you force her. I still want her to feel safe and open when she talks to me. I am still evaluating my options and trying to find the best path forward. Side note, I keep getting asked this in private messages. First, my dad, as far as I know, currently does not drink excessively or use hard drugs. Second, no, Nicole is not my stepmom. She is just engaged to my dad. Third, I am not going to run away. I am not that reckless to do that given the whole situation. I am now living at a friend's house. Nicole is staying at my grandparents' house because she has severe nausea and fatigue from the pregnancy and needs my grandma's help. Nicole's mom doesn't arrive for another week, so she will stay in the meantime. Since there is only one other spare room, my grandparents asked me to stay at a friend's house for a week. My sister is in the hospital. She got into a physical fight. My maternal grandpa arrives tonight. I don't want to share more of my sister's personal struggles than I already have, but in the past, she has had suicidal thoughts due to bullying. I am not going to do anything that could trigger those thoughts. Also, if she doesn't trust me, she will never tell me when she is having those thoughts. It is a terrifying possibility because I can't be with her right now if that happens. If things were simple, I would have already done something. This will be my last update for a while. More than a week ago, my grandparents asked me to live at my friend's house for a week, since Nicole needed my grandma's help with the pregnancy. For context, Nicole has severe fatigue and nausea, and her mom was arriving a week later. Also, my grandparents only have one extra bedroom, which is why they asked me to live at my friend's house. I wasn't upset with the arrangement. I could be away from everyone, which was helpful. Regarding my dad and Nicole's relationship, my dad is working, so he can't take time off to help Nicole. Hence, she needs my grandma's and her mom's help. After overhearing a conversation between my grandma and Nicole, I learned both are under a lot of stress and that is making her feel depressed. That is all I know about them. Regarding my sister in the hospital, 3 days ago, my sister ended up in the hospital. My sister has been bullied for a long time. We have reported it to the school numerous times, but they never do anything. A girl who has been harassing her online started insulting her and laughing at her while they were walking to class. My sister pushed her to get her away, and that escalated into a physical fight. The girl slammed my sister's head against the locker while they were fighting. My sister was knocked unconscious, and the school immediately called 911. My grandparents went to the hospital, and I went when I finished school. My maternal grandpa drove down that night. My sister ended up with a severe concussion, but she came home on Friday. She is improving, but still has bad headaches. The bully was suspended, but they didn't do anything else. By the way, in all this chaos, my dad didn't show up once at the hospital. Living situation: I am now living with my maternal grandpa, but my sister lives at my dad's house. My grandma has been going to check on her, but the fact that she is still living alone in the house worries me. She is still recovering from everything and there is no one, damn it, there for her. My maternal grandpa asked my dad if he could take my sister with him for a week, and he said no. This piece of trash also threatened to call the police on my maternal grandpa again. I am going to call the police when he leaves for work on Monday. I don't know what else to do to get her out of that situation. I think reporting to the police is the best thing I can do. Yes, I have thought about it as much as I could. There is no other alternative to get help for my sister. She is going to hate me, and my paternal grandparents are going to disinherit me, but there is no other alternative. Regarding the counselor, I don't think he can help as much as I need. That is the only reason I am calling the police. There is no one with her. My paternal grandma goes for 15 or 20 minutes, and she is left alone the rest of the day. She threw up everything twice on Saturday, and there was no one home when it happened. Also, I have no idea if my grandma would show up if my sister called asking for help. Now I am about 2 hours away, so I can't go. Don't worry about finances. I have a decent scholarship from my university, and I will work, so I am not that worried. Police and my grandma found my sister unconscious in the house. She is in the hospital again, and they think she hit her head again when she fell. Child Protective Services is already involved. Nicole decided to have her impromptu gender reveal party this weekend, while my sister is in the hospital and my dad is under a CPS investigation. I don't know what the hell she is thinking. This woman has extreme fatigue and nausea and thinks she has the energy to entertain her entourage. Also, and most importantly, my sister is recovering well, but they are keeping her in the hospital for longer observation. My grandpa is looking for a lawyer to file for custody, and my dad is being actively questioned. As of today, my dad is being actively questioned, and Nicole ended up postponing the gender reveal party. My grandpa and I talked about my sister's situation, and he is in the process of getting a lawyer. Hopefully, she can stay with us soon. My sister had a seizure, so my grandpa and I drove back tonight. My grandpa wants to press charges against the bully. Yes, it is a bitter pill to swallow and even harder to accept reality as it is. I had to repeat to myself that he is no longer my dad, nor will he ever be. Reconfiguring the way you see a person close to you is not easy at all, and I have questioned many of my decisions in the last 2 months. But I know it is for the best. Another one of my biggest fears was losing the sense of family. Although he was never there, or my paternal grandparents took his side, the idea of family still existed. But even that, I had to rethink and understand why I felt that way. It is a process to repeat to yourself that this is not the way a family is supposed to work. I am meeting with a CPS worker this week. Also, the doctor suspects my sister might have a more severe traumatic brain injury than previously thought, so she will stay in the hospital this week. Nicole announced she was expecting a girl after they admitted my sister to the hospital for the 3rd time. Dad still hasn't shown up. The only thing he has done is call my maternal grandma to tell her he will be out of town this week. My sister has mobility issues. They still don't know to what extent. My sister will need physical therapy for the next few months, but she is recovering slowly. The school has extended the bully's suspension, and the administrators have started direct communication with the grandparents. I have the meeting with CPS today after school. The meeting with CPS went well. A lot of the questions focused on my sister's situation, but I mentioned the ER visit and my dad's absence. I also brought recordings of conversations, but they couldn't really do anything with them. I heard they will talk to a couple more relatives and with Nicole. I really want to thank you for your support and wonderful advice. It has been a roller coaster in general, but I am glad it is finally coming to an end. I know a lot still awaits me, but I am relieved my sister is safe. Just to preface, all of this literally happened today. My other post was also getting too long, so I thought about making a new one. At school, the receptionist called me over the intercom in the middle of my exam. I went and saw my dad standing there. This man pulled me out of class to take me back home, quote unquote. I told him immediately I wasn't going to go, and he said I had no choice and to move. By the way, during all this, we were still in the office. Then I yelled at him to leave, and he yelled at me to shut up and move. The receptionist intervened and asked if there was a problem. I told her I refused to go back with him, and asked her to call my grandpa. My dad then grabbed my arm and tried to drag me out of the office, and I just kept screaming. The lady called the security guard and he came. My dad told him I was acting like a brat and that I was his daughter, his problem. I told the officer that I now live with my grandpa and not with him. They called another officer and he told me I was only allowed to leave with my father. The officers left and my dad squeezed my wrist and pulled me toward his car. Then he ordered me to get in or else. I tried to pull away, but he shoved me into the passenger seat. Then he warned me not to try anything and drove back to his house. Then he said I had to take care of my sister while he worked this week because I was responsible for what happened to her and that this was my way of paying for everything I have put him through. Then he texted me a minute after leaving telling me not to try a single damn thing and that he would discipline me physically if he had to. By the way, he has never physically hurt me, nor had he threatened me so severely before, so it was terrifying to see the text. A while after he left, I called the police and said I had been taken against my will back to his house, and I told them he held me tightly. The police came and my maternal grandpa came. Since there was no caregiver at home for my sister and my father didn't answer, the police allowed my grandpa to take her with us. They located my father a while ago and arrested him. It is a mess right now, but my sister now lives with me and my maternal grandpa, so I know at least she is safe. Again, all additional updates are added to this same post as edits. I am probably going to finish high school in the same place, since I have 2 months left, but I asked my grandpa to consider homeschooling for my sister. I feel a little safer that my father is away for now. I couldn't record in the car, but the police did record the bruises on my wrists and head. I didn't even think to mention the school cameras. I will find a way to pass that info along. Thank you. When my dad brought me home, my sister was still in bed and no one stopped by to wake her up for breakfast or lunch, so she went hungry. It is an unsafe situation because she can still faint or lose consciousness, and after the other incident where she fainted on the hardwood floor, she suffered another concussion. I have no freaking idea why she was alone. Supposedly, my grandma stops by to see her in the morning and afternoon, but my sister needs constant supervision. My grandpa noticed bruises around the back of my sister's neck, and I noticed a lot of bruises on a part of her abdomen while helping her change. The bruises couldn't have come from her fall, nor from the fight a couple of weeks ago. We suspect the worst and have reported and documented the bruises. My sister is also not in a state where she can hold full conversations, but from what she could tell me, my dad hit her in the neck and threw something at her stomach while she was sleeping. Everything has been reported to CPS and the police. The family on the paternal side called yesterday and started ranting at me. They called me everything and told me I was no longer welcome in their family. I don't care what they do. The school is a 20-minute walk and a 6-minute drive from my father's house. But after what happened, I doubt my father will try to do something like that again. Also, after the whole call, I blocked them all on everything. I have no intention of talking or dealing with their stuff. Regarding the baby, they detected a heart anomaly. They will go to a specialist in a couple of weeks to find out exactly what the problem is, but the fact that they suck at basic parenting worries me about the baby's care when she is born. Random fact: Nicole isn't even Christian, but my grandparents have overlooked that throughout her relationship with my father. They have always crapped on me for not attending Sunday school or for not volunteering more at church. The people there, apart from 2 or 3 people, respect my grandparents a lot and are all the same. They are 100% going to spin it like a daughter straying from God and her father trying to save her. Pure nonsense. Also, this is the same church that kicked out a woman for a suspected abortion. It was never confirmed. It was a rumor spread by another church member. Slowly and maturely, quote unquote, everyone stopped associating with the woman. These are also the same people who say my mom's death was part of God's plan to help the drunk driver who killed her get closer to God. I really didn't think he could be any creepier than he is, but today, through my lawyer, I found out that this piece of trash was just charged with possession of child pornography. Apparently, they checked his phone because of a situation involving my sister when they stumbled upon the explicit photos. Honestly, I hope he rots in hell. I will never know if he was like this before, but I really hope not. My sister has suicidal thoughts, but when she recovers a bit, my grandpa already has a potential therapist. We are worried about her. She has been through much more than me. by far, and hasn't received a shred of help. From conversations I overheard between my grandpa and other relatives, it is very likely she will do homeschool for a year or so. The news has already reached the church and the school. I have had people ask me indirectly, but I changed the subject. No one has pressed the conversation. Nicole is in the hospital because she was bleeding a lot and they don't know if the baby is okay. My sister is recovering well and will start physical therapy soon. I also committed to a combined BSMD program yesterday. Nicole and the baby are okay, but the police are investigating Nicole for something, although I don't know why. Thank you. I have 2 scholarships that will cover my part of the cost, but I will work so I am not too worried. My grandpa has offered therapy several times, but I have been a little scared to restart the process and go through that again. The bully is in the process of being expelled, and there is an internal investigation into the handling of the situation. My grandpa went ahead to press charges, but I really don't know much on that front. He deliberately keeps me out of the loop so as not to stress me. They also found illegal content on Nicole's phone and computer, and she has been detained. From what I know, there is nothing to suggest they did anything to my sister. However, this is only based on my sister's word and the lack of physical evidence. The content is from before October and November when I originally left, so if something was happening, I would have known. Anyway, I don't think we can do much if she is deliberately hiding something, and the odds of that are quite low. I only hear about the paternal side from family friends, from classmates whose parents attend the same church, or from my maternal grandpa. Apparently, my paternal grandparents did not attend church last Sunday, so my grandpa told me my paternal grandparents are filing for custody of my sister and me. Warning: suicide attempt. I haven't posted updates because I'm focused on my sister. She is in the hospital again and recovering slowly. This has mentally shaken me. I know I should have been home more taking care of her. My grandpa is already stressed to the max and I don't know how to help him. We started taking her to therapy after her physical therapy appointment, twice a week. My grandpa can't afford it out of pocket and has been fighting with insurance. Somehow, the paternal side found out about the financial problems and started filing another custody petition just for my sister, under the pretext of covering her medical expenses. The therapist never told us if she mentioned anything. I am pretty sure she didn't anyway. She is reserved and keeps her struggles to herself unless she feels really comfortable with you, which takes time to build. However, she mentioned situations of physical abuse that have been sent to the police for record. After her hospitalization, we learned she developed partial blindness in her left eye and refuses to speak to anyone. I try to talk to her, but she ignores me and stays silent. She doesn't speak to anyone, not even the doctors. Also, the judge granted the paternal grandparents primary custody of her to fund the medical expenses. My grandpa is in the process of selling a part of the farm to raise more money. She had acute liver failure and is still considered a potential danger to herself, so she is still there. We finally have an official trial date for him. I am much better now. My sister will be discharged later this week, but she will go home with the paternal grandparents for a while. I don't know many details, but I know my grandpa filed a civil lawsuit against them for my sister's injury when she fell. We still don't have a buyer for the property, so I'm not sure where we will get more money. I am also thinking about deferring my enrollment because of that. My grandpa passed away unexpectedly. My grandpa passed away in May. He was going to meet a friend after a meeting with the lawyers when it happened. I really don't know how to feel. Everything after was a blur, and I still have to deal with the aftermath. The funeral was rushed and messy. They didn't even bury him next to my grandma, but cremated him against his wishes. They never asked me what my grandpa would have wanted. It seemed like people wanted to get it over with and move on. I don't even have my grandpa's urn, and I don't know who has it now or what happened to it. They never gave me a moment to breathe. Within a week of his passing, I was moved to 2 different houses of relatives I had never met. I have lost a lot of contact with my sister. She responds less and less to my calls or texts. My relative is trying to organize a meeting for us by communicating with my paternal grandparents. He told me he met with my sister and that she was healthy and doing well. I don't know what will happen with the custody issues now. I saw her last weekend and she seems to be okay. Regarding my sister, we are talking regularly now. She has access to her devices and I have met with her recently. She seems to be okay, but I don't live with her. Regarding legal status, Dad is currently in jail, but Nicole is not. She was able to prove that he downloaded the photos to her device without her knowledge. She gave birth in June to a girl. Her daughter was born with a congenital heart defect and will need surgery when she is a few months old. I haven't met her nor do I want to. I only wish the best for her and her daughter. Why does my sister live with the paternal grandparents? My paternal grandparents have custody of my sister because they have the financial capacity to pay her medical bills. I was disinherited a long time ago, and I do not wish to live with them anyway. I live with my dad's cousin, who has a son my sister's age. No, we haven't had contact with my paternal grandparents since the time of the funeral, And even then, it was to ask for the contact of my grandpa's friend. They haven't asked about me or seen me in months. I have seen my sister in person twice already, so it's not like they prevent me from visiting her. Before, I wasn't allowed into her house and my sister had frequent medical visits, so I guess it was so she could focus on her health. I honestly don't know. The bully only received suspension. Personally, I am done talking about my situation. I am getting ready for college and have reconnected with my sister. She has recovered well with some things still ongoing. Much of the rest pending may take months to resolve. However, I am ready to move on. Thank you all for the advice and well wishes. I am extremely grateful for all the supportive messages, especially in the last few months. But I have also been receiving a good amount of angry or demanding messages asking me to keep giving updates. I am not going to expand or talk about him or the trial. To those writing to me about that, I hope you can respect that. Bear editor with glasses here. That was the last time we heard from OP for real. She deleted the account, so that will be all, unfortunately.